There are several stories, but first, to set the tone, so to speak, there's a little Zen anecdote about a Zen master who had as one of his students a young man who was somewhat enlightened, but he was also a very personable young man and very eloquent. So it so happened that the young man came to the attention of the governor of the province of the day, and because of his ability to express and expound, he was mentored by the governor, and he was given apartments, and he was taken care of in a very grand way. But one day, when the young man was riding along in a highly capacious carriage with a number of his followers, on the side of the road he saw an old mendicant, and the old mendicant was wearing his bamboo hat and his straw sandals and his worn robe. But to the great surprise of the followers of the young man stopped his carriage, jumped out, and knelt down in the dust in front of the old man, putting his head on the old man's feet. This was none other than his own Zen master. The old man gently lifted the young man to his feet, looked at him and said, "Drunk again?" And then there's a story in that far-off land of India where there was a young woman who was tired of leading a subsistence living on the meager earnings of her husband. They were barely able to make ends meet. And it came to her attention that there was a certain knowledgeable, wise sage who lived not too far away from them. So she decided that she would go and seek his counsel. And when she arrived at the very humble abode of the wise man, she observed that all his needs were met. Unbidden, food came to him. He was taken care of in all ways. And jealousy and envy arose in her. But then she listened to his dissertations. He was a simple, serene, humble man, and he spoke of mindfulness. He spoke of compassion for others, and he spoke of absence of desires, and it seemed that he personified what he spoke of. So she grew to revere him, and all traces of envy disappeared. But then one day her husband accosted her and said, "What do you go to that old man for? What difference has he made in our lives? Have we been enriched by your spending every day with him, spending my hard-earned money to buy him things?" And this state of affairs went on between them for some while. But then her husband said to her one day, "Oh, I heard that your guru has a touchstone, and he even has touchstones that he can give to other people, and when they receive them, they become rich. So ask your guru for a touchstone." She said, "How can I ask him for anything? He's such a simple, humble being. But then the husband harangued her to the degree that she decided that she would do so. So the next day she went to the Guru and she said to him, I believe that you have a touchstone, and touchstones that you can give to others that will fulfill their wishes. And he said, yes, somebody gave me one last week. I threw it away. But, you know, if you want to, you'll probably find it down by the fence down there. It's this color and it's shaped like this and this. So she immediately dashed off to look for this touchstone. But then, as she was scrambling around near the fence, she had a realization. She had a realization about her teacher. And so she stopped her seeking and her groveling and her scrounging, foraging. And she went back to her husband and she spoke to him of her realization and said, perhaps we should begin to live this. And the second story is a story about a fakir, a Sufi story. And this fakir came into the presence of the great Sufi sheikh, Sheikh Gawaul Sh'Attar. Now this fakir was a very arrogant and impatient man. So it was very soon evident that he was in the wrong place, which of course the sheikh knew. So he asked him to leave the takir, the house of learning. But before doing so, the fakir said to the sheikh, I have learned that you can give wisdom with just a touch. So why is it that you insist that we have to spend time with you? And the sheikh said, you have not yet learned how to learn, but it will be shown to you. But this fakir wasn't easily put off. So he used to creep in to the house of learning and hide so that the sheikh could not see him. And one day the sheikh took out a wooden box, and out of the wooden box he took an amulet and he held it up and he said, this is the source of my power. This is the instrument of illumination. So immediately the fakir thought, oh, this is what it is. So that very night he stole in to the takir and took the box with the amulet. Now, taking the amulet, he gathered followers around him and he tried to use it to produce powers of transformation, but nothing happened. He tried to use the amulet on himself to no avail. And then one night the sheikh appeared to him and said, you have not yet learned how to learn. You can steal something. You can even steal knowledge, but it will not bring any power to you. But the fakir said, but I have the amulet. And the sheikh said, yes, you have the amulet, but you are not Sh'Attar. I can make another amulet, but you cannot become Sh'Attar. And then the sheikh disappeared. But then the fakir thought that his appearance was just an attempt to take back the amulet. So he didn't heed the sheikh's words, and he continued to attempt to use the amulet to change, to have power. And even though it was unsuccessful, there were many who followed him and attempted the same, using amulets. To no avail. So the questions that arise out of these stories is, from the first, what was this realization that came to the woman? And secondly, what is this amulet? What is this touchstone? What's been our touchstone, our amulet? And do we still cling to it? Or have we realized that it's not the source of power, and we've discarded it, like the rod and the staff spoken of in the great book? What is this realization? And what is this touchstone? What could it be? What does it represent? An amulet, a touchstone for us. What have you been clinging to? And do you still grasp for that thread, a thread,
theme of those stories is about looking outside yourself for power rather than recognising that it's in here and knowing how to access it from inside.
Yes, yes, yes.
So the amulet could be anything. It could be, a trust in God, or a trust in...
Absolutely. White light, anything, anything, anything is a thread. Can we look at ourselves and still find in ourselves that need to look out and find something to grasp hold of? But what was the realization of the woman? What was the realization? Her teacher throwing away the touchstones, having no need .
Story the other day. Drop it.
Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. What is this realization? Oh, phew, not out of a job yet. Okay. Have to come back.